Good afternoon. Today we are back in discussing the impact of tariffs which are imposed by a country in the light of foreign monopoly. So there is only one producer who is providing this product in this home country. There are no alternative goods, there are no goods which are available domestically. It is only this foreign producer who is providing this product in this home markets. Okay. This is different from the cases that we have been discussing. We have been discussing the case where home country producers are perfect competitive firms. We have been discussing the case where the home producer is has a home monopoly. This is the third case where this particular good is being provided by the foreign monopolist. So there is no home producer of this good. It is only one producer who is a foreigner, and he is the one who is providing this good. So then the demand curve that he faces is downward sloping, and this is the marginal revenue curve. He has the fixed marginal cost curve. So the price that will prevail in free trade will be PW. Reason that this is the marginal cost cuts MR here. So the prices that prevail before tariffs are imposed is PW. So this is the good, X1 is the good which is provided by the foreign monopolist. So whatever is exported by this foreign monopolist becomes the imports for the home country. Now this country imposes tariffs. So home country imposes tariffs when there is only one producer of that particular good who is a foreigner. It looks little odd that you impose a tariff when there is no domestic production of the same good, but think aloud. You can think of a case where, say for example, you impose tariffs on the good which is coming from abroad. Okay, so there is no domestic production of that good. So you do not have those intentions to promote domestic industry and deter competition and things like that. You just want to impose tariffs. You do not want the foreign good to come in. So for various reasons, or maybe you want revenue, or maybe if you are technically sound, then you think of saying that if tariffs are imposed, the terms of trade will improve. Right? For various reasons you impose tariffs. You know what happens if the tariffs are imposed. The domestic price of that good goes up. How would foreigners see it? The foreigners would see as a leftward shift or an upward shift of their marginal cost curve. Why? Because remember, when we were discussing tariffs which were imposed by small or large country, the export supply curve shifted to the left. Right? The supply curve shifts to the left because if I am providing good to you, you impose tariffs, I would take it as a tax on me. So supply is a function of price of other goods, technology, taxes. So those other factors are shift factors. So the supply curve, as the taxes go up, the supply curve shifts to the left. So he has this marginal cost curve which shifts upwards because the taxes or the customs duties are imposed. So then the new marginal cost curve cuts the MR here. So the new prices are P star plus T, but the domestic price don't rise by the amount of the tariffs, because as in the earlier case, if you impose tariffs and I want to supply goods to you and I find that my exports are coming down, I will reduce my prices just to enter your market, because you are the one who is imposing tariffs. So I have to do something about my product, I will reduce my prices. So the increase in domestic prices are not equal to the amount of tariffs. So then if that is so, the loss in consumer surplus is this minus C minus D, because the prices earlier were PW, now it is P star plus T. Government revenue C plus E, so the net welfare is E minus D. So as in the case of the case when the home country was large and it imposed tariffs, you got net welfare to be equal to E minus B plus D. Here it is E minus D only, E minus D only, where E is the terms of trade gain, D is the distortion, the consumption distortion. So for small tariffs, you can have a positive impact on the welfare. So the net impact, the net welfare is when the tariffs are imposed by a country in the light of foreign monopoly is ambiguous, because this is the terms of trade gain, this is the distortion. You can have this to be positive or negative depending on what is the distortion, what is the terms of trade gain. Please recall, this is different from the case when we were discussing dumping. Do you recall dumping? Dumping is a phenomena when the foreign monopolist, he is again a foreign monopolist, but he then sells the good in the foreign market at a price which is lower than the local price, or at a price which is lower than the average cost. Do you recall? And still he makes profits, because where he acts as a price discriminator. The same good is being provided in two different markets at different prices, because the markets are segmented. So when Chinese find that Indian markets are elastic, they will sell it at a lower price, and they will sell the same product in their market, in their own markets at a higher price. That is different from this. There also it was a foreign monopolist, but he was providing his products in two different markets.
But the world prices and the prices at which Chinese are supplying the good, those are different, right? I mean, that would be different, because if we are imposing tariffs, so the Chinese producer will reduce his prices. So this disparity, won't it create another any distortion?
No, I am not fully understanding the question. Is it in this context, or is it in context of dumping? In this context, yeah.
Chinese producer reducing his prices, that would be lower than the world.
The Chinese producer reducing in the prices when he faces a tariffs. Okay.
Below the world prices, because small country can't affect
Yeah.
the world price.
Yeah.
So doesn't affect do this activity affect the prices of the net welfare? There is the global net welfare.
No, this is the net welfare of this home country. And because the foreigner sells at a price which is lower than PW, right, the price of exports go down or the price of imports go down. So the home country terms of trade improves, right. Okay. Now, why is he selling at lower price? Because he imposed, the home country has imposed tariffs. Did I answer your question? I'm not sure whether I fully understood. Well, remember this, he is the only one who is providing this good in this market. So this is the average revenue curve. So you can say, okay, it's a world demand because it's in the home country that he faces a demand curve like this.
Saying that the intersection point is world prices, it means that we are taking the world demand.
No, but see, he is the foreign monopolist who's in this home country, say good X is not being produced. This is being provided by the foreign monopolist. So what will be the demand curve that he will face in this country? In this country, it will be a downward sloping demand curve, because only by reducing prices he can increase the demand for that. So given this, you have a scenario which is similar to the case when the tariffs were imposed by the large country. When tariffs were imposed by the large country, the terms of trade worked out to be E minus B plus T. Okay, now let's go to
The rest of the world would remain at PW or P star? Would it go to P star in the rest of the world?
now in the rest of the world, one wouldn't know that it is P star, because see, this is a case where this person reduces the price in this market for the domestic market, because there is no one who is providing this product. What happens internationally, one does not know, because in this, when you bring in imperfections, how are prices determined internationally, one is not interested at all. Maybe it is demand and supply, maybe because of their imperfections. So one does not know. This is the price that he will charge in this market. So that's what, yeah. So the reason that this happens, that you reduce the price, you have to go back to the fact, remember when he gets a price bereft of tariffs. Tariff revenue goes to the government. He gets a price which is not inclusive of tariffs. That is how you would understand. And then another way of saying the same thing is that when he sees that the other country, home country, imposes tariffs, he has to reduce the prices of that. Okay. Recall that diagram that I made for the large country. So this is for the large country, this is the price, the free trade price. What happens if this large country imposes the tariffs? What happens is this supply curve shifts to the left. This is the price rise, but the foreigners, what foreigners get is this. P star. Why P star? Because this tariff revenue, this P star plus T, that tariff revenue, this accrues to the government. So, the foreigners do not get this price, foreigners get a price bereft of tariffs, they get this price. Or in other words, when I say that a home country imposes tariffs, the only way to enter the market, when they see that their exports are going down, the only way to enter the market is by reducing the prices. So, that is the price that they will charge. This is P star. Now, point is, if we further analyze this, there is an interesting case that P star goes down to this level such that P star plus T is less than PW. Okay, there can be a case where the price of the imported good declines to that level, or the terms of trade improve to that level, that the domestic price, which needs to increase beyond PW, is below PW. That is the case of the Metzler's paradox. Okay, so, you had imposed tariffs in the hope that the price of imported goods will go up, but the terms of trade improved to that extent that it depressed the price of the imported goods. So, it goes down. So, then the whole idea of imposing tariff gets lost because of these things. So, I am not going into all this, but if the question is about this P star, why do you reduce P star? There are two answers, answers which are basically the same. That look at, this is the domestic price, but foreigners do not get this price because it is the home country which has imposed tariffs. The domestic price in the home country has gone up. Foreigners get a price which is bereft of tariffs. The only thing that they see is that when tariffs are imposed, they will not be able to enter the market because the price of that good domestically has gone up. So, their exports go down. When their exports go down, it is like saying that to enter the market, they have to reduce the prices. So, this is the price that they would charge. See, I am coming back to the original supply curve. I am not here. Original supply curve means that this is the price that you get without tariffs. This is S star plus T. Okay. Right. Now, we have another interesting case. It is not even imposing anti-dumping duties, it is the threat of imposing anti-dumping duties. When you have a case when there is a threat of imposing anti-dumping duties. So, Chinese wish to enter our markets, but they realize that the Indian government can impose anti-dumping duties. And remember how anti-dumping duties are calculated. It is based on the difference between the local price in Beijing minus the export price, the price that they will charge in India. So, if I am the producer, I am the Chinese producer and you are the Indian government, and I know that you would impose anti-dumping duties, what action would I follow, or what action should I do such that this anti-dumping duties go down? Do you understand my question? I am the Chinese producer. I know that probably there is a case that you would impose anti-dumping duties. And I know anti-dumping duties are calculated on the basis of the difference between local price and the export price. What would I do if I know that your government will impose duties on me?
Reduce export price to local price.
Are you sure? If you reduce the local price and yeah, of course you can reduce the local price, and given that you don't want to do anything in your own market, given that, okay, I have to add this rider, that given that you don't have to do anything about your local price, what could you do to reduce those duties? Increase the export price. So this is a threat, not that the Indian government has imposed the duties. The threat in itself will force me to increase the export prices. So if this was the export price, it will go up. It will go up because I would increase the export price in the face of the threat of India imposing anti-dumping duties on me. So then it is more pernicious than imposing tariffs, because here the loss in consumer surplus is minus A, minus B, minus C, minus D. The gain in producer surplus is A. There is no revenue that you would get because the governments haven't imposed anti-dumping duties. There is only a threat that Indians will not allow the Chinese products to come in because it may impose anti-dumping duties. So then as a producer, I will increase the export price because I don't want to pay these much duties. To reduce the anti-dumping duties, I would increase my export price. So then the net welfare is minus B minus C minus D. It's greater than when you impose tariffs. When you impose tariffs, remember the welfare worked out to be minus B minus D. Here just the threat of it forces the foreign producers to increase their export prices. As a result, the net welfare of this country comes down to minus B minus C minus D. And remember, under the WTO rules, there is nothing which says that the anti-dumping, which says that dumping cannot be done. There is nothing in the WTO which says that dumping has to be stopped. Only what corrective actions should be taken, WTO talks about it. And what are the corrective actions? Anti-dumping duties. So if you analyze the duty structure, every country has over and above the basic rate an anti-dumping rate, over and above this countervailing duties to take care of the export subsidies, and over and above that safeguards. So you have a basic structure, then anti-dumping duties, then CVDs, countervailing duties, and then safeguards. What President Bush did in 2001 was imposing safeguards, which is also called the escape clause, because it didn't want the cheap steel to come in. So it imposed tariffs on those steel coming in from the European nations and from some developing countries.
Clause in the WTO about anti-dumping, about dumping.
Yeah, see, they say they understand dumping in a manner where dumping they interpret it as a foreign monopolist discriminating between markets. Yeah, it's a case of price discrimination. So economic argument cannot lead you to make a provision regarding that you need to reduce the dumping.
For example, if they don't have any clause against dumping, but we can take measures against them. But when we take measures against dumping, we have a loss in welfare.
Absolutely.
But if there was a clause and they restricted dumping, then we wouldn't have any loss.
Absolutely. So that can be one of the arguments. That's one of the flaws in the WTO system, that it's quite about the dumping, but it says something about what needs to be done. Remember, the US also imposed something like a Super 301 clause on countries which did not conform to the good trade practices. At least that has been replaced by certain provisions which talk of doing something about the anti-dumping duties. Okay. All right. So this is
What is the relationship between anti-dumping duties and the differences? Is directly related or inversely related? More is the difference?
more is the difference, higher are the duties, because local price and you have the export price. So lower the export price, given the local price, larger will be the amount of the dumping duties you would have. It's like Chinese products coming into India. The lower it is, local price remaining the same, the higher will be the amount of duties. So if I am the producer, what will I do if I know that there is a threat? So then I would try to increase the prices, and it will be supported by the local producers. Do you know why? Why would it be supported by the local producers? Because the prices are rising and they want the price to rise so that they can get a higher price for that import competing good. So then, interestingly, what happens is that every country, when it faces this dumping, there are these producers which lobby with the government that you should do something about it, and they gain whether they impose tariffs or whether the government does not impose tariffs. The producers gain because they see a rise in the export prices. Right? So this is what goes on when you see the products being dumped. And dumped may be a misnomer, it's not a correct thing, because it's a case of price discrimination. Okay, I'll end up here. There are other things also in this chapter on tariffs and quotas imposed under imperfect competition, but I'm sure if you read through, you'll be able to understand those things. So when we meet on Monday, then we discuss the RTAs and especially the concept of trade creation and trade diversion.